Today I'm going to be showing you how to transform this lift into this lift. I'm going to be going over all the steps and processes I used, so make sure you stay tuned through the whole video to see the complete transformation. Welcome back to the Source Garage. So yes, today I'm going to be showing you how to transform this baby blue powder coated twin bush scissor lift into this nice gray lift here with some nice black trim along the bottom to make it more flush with the Swisstrax floor I have. So I'm going to go over all the tools and products I use and the entire process step by step. I'm going to film the whole thing and talk through a few segments of it. And that's really it. So to start with, I'm going to show you the finished product here, and I'll do a little walk around so you can see what it's going to look like when I'm all done, hopefully even better, using some of the things I learned from screwing up on the first one here. And before I get into that, I want to say if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I do all kinds of experiments and guides like this, so click that subscribe button and stay tuned. So like I said, I'm going to do a little walk around the lift here to start with while it's down, and then I'll show it again when it's raised up here in a sec once I get the tools out. So I've got this black trim along the base here, which I'll go over how I did that later in the video. Blends in nicely with the floor. There's a few spots I need to fix still where it's kind of come out a little bit. The adhesive I used didn't cure completely, and I'll go over the steps and why that happened and how to fix that. But other than that, I'm really happy with the way this one turned out. Other than you can see some of the striping from my poor rattle can paint job here. I don't have a professional paint gun by any means, and not the best painter with a spray can here, but it looks pretty nice and much better than the baby blue. Doesn't stick out nearly as much. So without further ado, I'm going to raise the lift up here and get the tools out and walk you through the process I'm going to do for this. All right, so I've got the lift at a comfortable working height here, and I'll walk through what you need to do everything here. So first step is we're going to scuff all the paint up using these 3M Scotch-Brite pads. Use the maroon colors, one of more abrasive colors. And what I've done is I'm going to cut these in half, attach them to a random orbital here, just a Max Shine one, and apply some 3M Scuff It paint prep. So this gel combined with these pads and the random orbital going across everything makes extremely quick work versus scrubbing by yourself and wearing out your arm and shoulder. I'm also going to recommend for most of these steps here a paint mask because we are going to be scraping up paint and we're going to be using a lot of paint. We don't want to be inhaling any of that. So once we go across the entire top of the lift and scuff everything up, then we're going to use some paint prep into some paper towels or rags, whatever you have, and we're going to wipe everything off to get it ready for painting. We're also going to be taping off, and I've got some plastic lawn bags here. I'm going to tape around the bottom so I don't get paint on the bottom section of the lift. You're also going to want a German Shepherd if you can find one. They're very good dogs, just like them all. You're also going to want to find any kind of paint in 3 steps I would do this in. So primer, an enamel, and a gloss clear coat. What happened on the first lift is I used Rust-Oleum's gloss coat, and it basically acted as a paint stripper everywhere I sprayed it, and wanted to basically lift the paint off everything I did. It was a horrible process. I've emailed Rust-Oleum now about it, but I'm using some VHT wheel paint, gloss clear. This stuff has worked really well for me on some stands I made before, so I coated the whole lift in that. So using these 3 things to paint it, and then using a paint gun here just to make it a little bit easier to control. So that will be for all of the painting on the top part of the lift. And then for the bottom part of the lift, we have some vinyl backing here. And this is going to be cut and put around the bottom to get that nice black trim that was on the other one to make it go or blend in flush with the floor. So just have a tape measure, marker, and scissors so we can cut this up. Oh, and then lastly, I forgot the adhesive. So I've got a wall base adhesive here that we'll use as well to adhere this to the bottom, and I'll show that process of adhering it. I'll have to get some boards and weights and some other stuff as well to go over how to make this actually stick and bend properly. So that's the whole process. So I'm going to get started here, clean this stuff off and get started with scuffing everything up. And of course, one other thing I forgot to mention, definitely going to want some drop cloths for the painting. Not necessarily required for the sanding part here, but definitely recommend for the painting. So I've got them all spread out around the garage here. Make sure to protect the Swisstrax flooring from paint on it. And also recommend some gloves would be helpful, and probably a headset because it's going to be a little noisy while you're doing this, so you can relax a little bit. So I'm going to show you what it looks like after I do a little bit of scuffing here. Test. All right, so now you should be able to pretty clearly see, obviously you can see the transition point where it's kind of flat looking right here, and then the gloss continues the rest of the way. So that's obviously where the scuffing was just done at, and I'll grab the camera here so you can really get a better look at the differences here. And really just the feel of it, if you were to rub your finger on it, it's really like glossy and smooth right over here, and then over here you get that rough kind of feeling. So there's actually some traction here, and this is what's going to help our primer adhere to the surface. So just going to continue scuffing up the whole way across, going through several pads and some more paste as I work my way around, using the machine for all the big flat parts that I can, and then I'll hand do like some of the edges and under the ends of the lift here in these smaller sections. So get to it and put on the music. All right, now you can see how everything's nice and matte, hand sanded after running the orbital on the big section. So now just time to really just clean it all up and wipe it down and get it ready for priming. All right, so now it's time to do some taping on everything I don't want to get paint on. So I've got some thicker tape I'm going to put on the rollers on either ends here. I'm going to tape off the ends of the rods that go through here on both sides. I'm going to cover up the middle section here. Really just trying to not get paint where I don't absolutely need it as much as possible. So that'll be for each end. And then around the bottom, what I'm going to do is basically take the tape here and put it on backwards under the bottom lip here. And then the plastic bags I showed you before, I'm going to attach to the bottom here and basically make a skirt to go all the way around the lift here. So I'm going to show you how I do all that now. Test. All right, so all of our prep work is done now. Finished taping off. Got a nice little skirt around the lift, so protect the parts underneath. I'm not trying to get any paint on. I've got drop cloths spread out across most of the garage and cardboard boxes and whatever else I can get to cover the ground nearby. Get everything taped up on the ends here. And the surface has been scuffed and wiped down, so we're ready to start painting. So, out of focus there. So we're going to first apply primer across the entire surface and then apply the gray enamel paint. With this Rust-Oleum primer you can paint right away. So I'll prime it and then immediately put the gray on top. And the most important part is going to be not trying to get the striping on the top here like I have on the other one. You need to look up videos on proper technique to smoothly apply the paint to not get striping. So see if I can do it right this time. I failed on the first one, although it really doesn't look that bad, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so it's been 24 hours now, and I let everything dry for 24 hours mainly because I wanted to come back after it's dried and look for any spots that might have been missed. When the paint's wet, it can be kind of hard to see when the light reflecting off it exactly where anything's been missed. And so now that it's dried, it's going to be much easier to see. Also, that was the reason I chose the reddish brown primer, because it'll stick through the gray a lot better. If you prime it with a white or a gray and then paint gray over it, it's going to be a lot harder to see any spots you miss. So make sure you pick a primer that's not the same as the color you're going to be using. So now I'm just going to inspect the whole thing and make sure I touch up any spots that might have been missed by any chance. All right, so I've let everything dry for a little bit, and now it's time to put the clear coat on. As I mentioned before, let's focus here. Using VHT wheel paint, gloss clear. That's a tough clear coat I've used before, and I did it on the other lift, and it worked really well. All right, so put 3 coats clear coat on. Did another one, I forgot to turn the camera back on again, but 3 coats of clear. So done with all the painting. Next we'll be putting the trim along the bottom. So gonna clean up all the tarping and drop cloths everywhere now. All right, so everything's cleaned up. It's time to figure out the final base here that I'm going to be doing around both sides to make this kind of blend in more smoothly. So when I installed the lifts and then installed the Swisstrax, they didn't line up perfectly, so I had to make cuts to get everything to fit together right. And obviously you can see there's a bit of a gap here because it's on an angle. So I cut off a sample piece here, and what I'm going to do is basically kind of mold it how I want it to be. So that it covers the gap I want. I'm going to keep it even the whole way around. So if I push it up against the base here, I'm going to have the adhesive and on the top. And then I know that I only want to go to here because you have to watch for the block still that's going to move as the lift goes up and down. So right about this point is how far I want my material to go. Take tape measure, line it up here, and straighten out the bottom because it's going to be flat almost on the piece. So I'm about 3 1/4-ish. Yeah, so I'm going to mark 3 1/4 on here and then measure out, this is about 5 feet in length here, and then cut it to 3 1/4 tall by 5 feet wide, and then go from there. So do that, and then I'll come back when I have the strip measured and cut here. Now, one other thing I'm going to do here, I forgot to mention before, to help with the adhesion process of the paste that's going to go on the back of here and on the frame is a little bit of scuffing. Just like with the paint, just helps remove the slickness from the surface and give something to hold on to. And of course, after that, I need to wipe it down, just remove excess powder. All right, so basically we're now to the point where it's sanded, it's clean, it's ready. I got wood here and some weights. Is how I'm going to adhere this and hold it in place. So I'm going to take the paste or the adhesive here, put it all across the base. Going to take this, flip it up, get it in position, move this board onto the bottom here and hold it there, and get it pressed up against the top as best I can with the wood and the weights that I have so it adheres properly and against much the surface as possible. Then I'm going to let this cure for 24 hours and then come back tomorrow and basically fold the top down after putting some adhesive on the top here. Fold the top down and then put weights on top again. And the reason I'm not doing both of these parts the same day is because this stuff does have a pretty long working time and it takes a good amount of time to set. I tried that with the other one, and neither spot really adhered the best unless you have something that can really like compress the entire edge here. So gonna do this upright side today, let it cure, and then tomorrow we'll come back and fold it down. That way we have a better adhesion on the bottom here before folding across the top. So that's the plan. All right, so this is what it looks like now that I've cleaned up a little bit, taken everything out. So, nice edge. Do have one spot I have to fix right here where it didn't stay down the entire time. I think when I came out and adjusted on the second day, this raised up, and so I'll have one spot I need to touch up, but everything else looks like it stayed down good. Other side. So everything's looking nice. So last thing to do here is I'm gonna drop the lifts down and see how it looks like laying flush on the floor. One last thing I just realized I forgot to do is take the tape off. Everywhere I had tape on here. All the edges and on the rollers on the end. So just do that quick. All right. Tape's off. Last thing to do is just drop them down to the floor. All right, so that wraps up the lift transformation. Some closing thoughts here on this is that this isn't going to be as tough as the powder coat. Obviously, this is just spray on paint. This is not powder coat that's been cured to it. So you will definitely see some abrasions on the hinges and where the latches hit. It's probably going to take the paint off, but again, that's going to be on the underside here most likely, so you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. I'll post a video here too of after I've driven on it a few times. So I'm going to have the Corvette up on the lift here to do some work on it soon. And show that it doesn't rip right up. I'm positive it won't. But just so you know, and so yeah, if you have any questions or want to know how I did something or things should have done something differently, leave it in the comments below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more experiments and tests and other random stuff I do in the garage around here. Thanks for watching.